So Node.js 14 LTS version was just released today. And one of the things I wanted to do is kind of talk about one of the features that I really like a lot that's available in Node 14. This feature was actually previously available in Node 13 with some of the flags enabled. But what this allows you to do is use the import and export syntax. It's part of the ES 2015 syntax technically. So currently the way that you normally import modules into your Node app is using the require method. And that's generally been the way you can do it. There's been other ways you can do it. So for instance, if you're using a tool like Babel, for example, you can use the newer syntax, and then it would interpolate what you're trying to do and convert that into something that Node could actually use. But now, with this new support, you can actually do import and export syntax in your Node applications. And one of the things I thought was pretty interesting was that one of the changes they made was that they now have a type attribute that you can add into your package.json file. So by default, it will try to use the original common JS syntax where you use the require methods to import your modules. Now you can actually use the import from syntax if you change the type to module. So let's take a quick look at an Express site and how you did Express before, how you can do it now. Okay, so I went ahead and I ginned out a new site using the Express. If you want to do this, you can you can type in npx_express-generator, and if you have an empty folder, it will just go ahead and it'll gen out all these files for a kind of very simple Express site. And if we come here and take a look at that, we can see here that it creates, it uses the require. So this is using the old style common JS. And just getting here, we're getting the Express, we're getting the path, we're getting the cookie parser, Morgan as a logger here, and then we're importing in these two routes. And then it's exporting this out as an app. And then in this template, one of the things they also do is they set up this bin www file, and in this bin www file, they essentially import in the app and they just run it from here as a server. So that's all well and good, but how do if I want to start using the import-export syntax in an application like this, how would I go ahead and port that? And so what I went ahead and did is I've taken this site already and I've already rewritten it so that it's using the import-export syntax. The first thing you have to do is you have to come here to this package.json file, and you can see right here that there's this type attribute in here. So if I come over here just as an example, if I wanted to, I could say type, and it knows, I'm using Visual Studio Code here, it knows two options here are going to either be module or common JS. It'll default to common JS if you don't specify anything, so I'm going to go ahead and select module, and that takes care of that. And then here inside of the app, I am doing an import here. Now, one of the things that's interesting, if you're trying to use, let's say, some of the global variables, let's say like __ file name or __ dir name for the directory name, you actually have to do a little bit of manipulation here to get those values. And so you can see right here is I've imported in the path, but I've also imported in this dir name function from the path module. And so what I'm doing down here is I'm setting those variables. I'm using this file URL to path where I'm importing in the meta URL. And then I'm taking the file name and I'm using the dir name function to create the dir name variable. So that's the only thing that's a little bit different. If you look at the Morgan, the logger here, what I'm actually doing is I'm importing this in as the default, and then I'm specifying as logger, so I can continue using logger as the function name. And if you look down here, I'm still using that. And then The other thing you'll notice here is that I changed the name of the www file to www.js. And that's mainly because that makes it easier for Node to be able to detect what the actual file is. And so one of the reasons why it took so long to actually bring over ESM into Node is because, what file extension are you using? And Node allows you to, to reference modules and files without putting the .js at the end. And so they came up with this .cjs and .mjs file extensions initially. All that stuff still works, but it's not necessary. Everybody hated it anyways. So that's why we have this new type attribute that we can set. So because of that, we are going to have to specify the full file name. So if I was using an MJS here, I'd have to specify app.mjs, but here we're just using JS. The other thing that's interesting here, if you look at the original project, you can see one of the things that they do here is they actually query the debug function to actually create this debug object here. And because we're using the import and export syntax, that's not available to us. And so what I'm actually doing here instead is I'm just importing the debug in as the module itself. And then I've created a new object here called final debug, where I'm now calling the debug function to create that object. And then I'm using it down here. So we've got the final debug down here. So if I want to run this, I can come over here to npm scripts, hit start, and we can see it's running. I'll come over here to my browser, and I'm going to say localhost 3000, and boom, now we have our default Express site. I can even come in here and test the other route. So users, and we can see that one's working as well. So if you like the content of this channel, please subscribe. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, you can give it a thumbs down, but please don't give it a thumbs down, give it a thumbs up. And I hope to have more videos like this coming out soon. Have a nice evening.